that start?
There, it's going.
Okay.
Turn it around. Hello, I'm nsalsbury, and this is my persuasive speech. Agricultural advances over the past 100 years have fueled human growth. Responsible and efficient use of these technologies would be great, but the problem is efficiency has taken over responsibility, and the corporate giants of factory farming have taken over. We have to get control of this industrial giant, or not only the U.S. but the world is going to suffer from food supplies lost. Today I'm here to explain to you, the consumer, how our food is raised and treated. Open our eyes to the horrible conditions that are going on today, and explain that not only does this affect animals, but this can affect humans too, with the environmental contamination of water and the spread of disease. And animals get no say in their treatment. They have no voice. They can't speak up. It is our responsibility as the human race to stand up for these animals, and this will also prevent environmental problems and the spread of disease. One might wonder, why am I speaking on this? Well, I live by these factory farms. I look out my windows and I see the farmers spreading feces and urine puddled up in the fields. I have to smell the horrible smell. I drive by and my kids ask, why is there dead animals laying out in the side? You know, we lay at night in the summer with the windows open and hear the screams of the pigs inside that are trapped in these conditions. You know, everyone is affected by the long-reaching arms of these factory farms. You know, you ask people where their meat comes from, they're going to say Walmart, Kroger's, something like that. People don't really think, where exactly does my meat come from and how is it treated? You know, Old MacDonald is a myth. There's no such thing anymore as the big red barn with the friendly little farm hands and the animals running around the yard. Those are things of the past. They now pump these animals full of antibiotics and hormones that spread into our clean water supply and spread diseases like H1N1 and other diseases. Today I'm here to help get a better understanding of what the factory farm is, how these animals are treated, and give a few ideas of what we can do to maybe stop some of these problems. First of all, what is a factory farm? Well, I call a factory farm a CAFO, a concentrated animal feed operation. According to the Farm Sanctuary, an animal advocacy group, 105 million pigs are raised every year in the U.S. They suffer painful mutilations like cutting their tails off, castration, with no sort of pain relief or anything. These animals are kept in 2-foot cages. They're not allowed to turn around. They can't lay down comfortably. They have to poop and pee where they eat and live. Their food's pumped to them automatically. This is just a horrible life that these animals are forced to live. The air inside of these places is horrible. For just a few hours of humans standing inside, they can suffer diseases such as bronchitis, asthma, sinusitis, organic dust toxic syndrome, and acute respiratory distress syndrome. These animals are trapped in there 24 hours a day and get no chance to get out. Many of these people today have switched from eating a lot of beef and pork to eating poultry. This has caused a huge expansion in the poultry industry. You know, according to the Farm Sanctuary also, there's 10 billion chickens raised a year and over 250 million turkeys are raised every year in this country. And they don't face any better conditions. Here's some pictures of some chickens. They face the same horrible mutilations. They cut their beaks off, they cut their toes off. They're kept in these cages here that they get less than half a square foot apiece. And turkeys get about 3 square feet apiece. These animals are also genetically modified. What is going to be the long-term effects of genetic modification on these animals? They're forced to grow twice as fast as they would normally. With that, they lose millions of these animals a year because their heart and lungs can't keep up with the rapid growth. You know, these are called meat chickens. There's also laying chickens. They don't suffer any better. These animals have to lay eggs constantly. And what do you do with the male chickens? Because they can't lay eggs. As you can see here in this picture, after the male chickens are born and they're found out they're males, they chuck them in the dumpster. Many times they're ground up with the used up laying chickens and just used as fertilizer or used as feed for other animals. These poor animals don't stand a chance. Finally, we're going to talk about beef. Since about the 1980s, 4 corporations have owned 80% of the beef in this country. Cows are kept a lot of times in feedlots and things like that, and these animals give no room to move either. Dairy cows are forced to stay pregnant for their entire life because that's the way they produce milk. They have about the same gestation period as a human, 9 to 10 months. How many women out there can imagine being pregnant their whole life? These animals are also genetically modified, and nowadays they can produce 100 pounds of milk a day. A normal dairy cow would produce 10 pounds of milk a day. That is 10 times more than normal. Also, if I owned my own dairy cow at my house, they would live 25 to 30 years. The way they're treated and overly worked and stressed, they have about a 3 to 4 year lifespan. Now that we've talked a lot about the effects on animals, what is the effects on humans? The overuse of antibiotics in the living conditions have made diseases become antibiotic resistant. There's a disease now called MRSA, which is antibiotic resistant strain. According to Scientific American, 95,000 cases of MRSA every year and 19,000 deaths because of it. They're not all directly related to CFOs, but a lot of them are. Living in Carroll County, which is a CAFO headquarters, there's tons of them everywhere. You are 10 times more likely to get MRSA than in other non-factory farming communities. And about a year and a half ago, the family physician in Camden, right down the road, he died as a result of MRSA. So it is right out your back door. The high cost of waste disposal, too. What do they do with all this waste? The cows and the pigs they spread in the fields, but the chicken feed they can't. They grind it up with those little chickens we seen earlier, and they feed it back to the cows and the pigs. This is called litter feeding. According to FACT, the Farm Animal Control Trust, since the 1960s, the scientific community recognized that litter feeding has the ability to transmit pathogenic organisms such as botulism and salmonella. So a lot of times when you see these news ads and the things on the internet warning about recalls of disease and stuff, that's why they're feeding these animals recycled crap. So what can we do to try to stop this a little bit? Well, first we can reduce consumption of meat. I'm not saying you have to become a vegetarian or a vegan or anything, but if you could cut your meat by 50%, you could save 5 billion animals. You know, what does that mean? Well, next time you go out to the Outback, you could order, instead of ordering the 20-ounce porterhouse, you could order the 10-ounce sirloin. You save a little bit of money, you shrink your waistline a little bit, and you've helped the environment and you've helped some animals. Another thing you can do is choose organic or choose cage-free. I know that sometimes with the economic times it's a little harder to afford some of these, but many times they're becoming just as affordable. Walmart now sells cage-free eggs that are about the same price as conventional eggs. Another thing you can do is just learn where your food comes from. A lot of times just the knowledge and knowing what is going on is enough to make people change. I know that it was enough for me. Then you can share with your friends and tell them what's going on. Another thing you can do is you can get involved, write letters, sign petitions. You know, get organized, do things like that. There's 2 bills right now that really need support. The Farm Animals Cruelty Act. If this is passed, this will prevent the federal government from subsidizing or spending any money on animals that are raised in these conditions. They will be outlawed and they will not be able to purchase meat from those sort of conditions. And the next is the Environmental Healthy Food for Children's Act. This would make sure that kids at school aren't allowed to eat these, and all these horrible conditions these animals are raised in and the disease-ridden food isn't fed to our children. It's another great bill to support. In conclusion, I hope to establish the way these animals are raised and treated and to open your eyes to this. The effects is not only on animals, but on humans. Strength in numbers. If we work together, if 300 million people in this country make a small change, it'll make a huge change in the industry. And Jason Clay, the author of The World Agriculture and the Environment, I think he sums it up best. He says, "Live like you will die tomorrow and farm like you will live forever." Thank you.